No, you're good.
Okay. Okay.
It's gonna be weird to mute and unmute if I need to mute.
All right, everybody. Well, we finally got our technical difficulties figured out. Thanks for sticking with us. I'm Pixie Phoenix, and welcome to the playground. I'm joined tonight by Nox, my storyteller from Vampire the Masquerade and Mothership. I'm also joined by our good friend Cogrunner, my friend Taylor.
Hi.
And, of course, everybody knows Zach. No introduction needed, but I'll do it anyway.
All right, so
let's go, Nox.
So, session 0 for our impending Hunter 5th edition one-shot. We've already basically done introductions for everybody, so I will go through that. So one of the first things that we're going to do, we're going to try to get through this as quickly as we possibly can, because this is not exactly what I would consider some of the fun stuff. But it is important stuff. The very first thing that we're going to go through is the consent checklist, lines and veils. What this effectively means is themes that you are either okay with, things that you would be okay with if they happened off screen or off stage, or things that you would not want to include at all. I'm going to go through the list really quickly because there are things that I'm not okay with and that you'll never see in my games. Mm-hmm. For me, and we're going to start off by saying, if this were a game or a movie, what would the rating be? For me, I don't ever do anything that's basically below R. That is just kind of where I sit. It's one of those things where I feel like most of my players who have ever played with me kind of know about where my content level sits in general. I'm not afraid to reach for some stuff to try to get under your skin and try to gross you out. But I am very, very much against attempting to traumatize you. I want a reaction. I don't want you to quit. So going down the list really quick, in terms of horror, bugs, blood, demons, eyeballs, gore, those are basically what comes with horror. Rats and spiders, I tend to also consider to be pretty good. A harm to children is one of those things that I am okay with if it happens off stage or it basically happens as a background setting. Harm to animals is basically something that I will never ever. I'm not okay with. Something like a vampire drinking a dog's blood. That's one thing I might be like, okay, that makes sense. But like somebody's dog getting thrown into like a wood chip or something like that won't happen at my table. Social and cultural issues, homophobia, racism, real world religion, sexism, specific cultural issues. My feeling on those has always been, as long as they are treated as the problematic issues that they are in real life. My vampire players have known that I have not been afraid to throw a couple red hat wearing assholes into the group, in terms of being victims. But I don't, homophobia, racism, like those are things that I'm just never gonna, like you're never gonna hear me pointedly say, you slur, things like that. It just doesn't happen at my table. Mental and physical health. Cancer, claustrophobia, freezing to death, gaslighting, genocide, heat stroke, natural disasters, paralysis, physical restraint, police aggression, severe weather, starvation, terrorism, torture, thirst. Most of those are things that thematic, I wouldn't have a problem with them, but thematically they're not really things that I would be okay with. There are a couple things, pregnancy, miscarriage, or abortion. Maybe off screen, but probably not. And sexual assault is a hard red line for me. Even joking about that that's an immediate stop. So is everybody clear on where my lines are?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So then now we're going to go down the list for everybody who's in the game. So I'm going to go through. If there's anything that comes up on these lists, just say issue, and then we'll talk about it. So, bugs, blood,
Spiders.
demons, eyeballs,
Can't do spiders.
gore, harm to animals, harm to children, rats, spiders.
Spiders.
Okay, so
I know spiders.
okay, so then we will attempt to keep the spider creatures to the minimum. Social and cultural issues, homophobia, racism, real world religion, sexism, specific cultural issues.
As long as it's been carried in the way that Zach and I are used to in these games, where there may be, like you said, some MAGA, where you're using some colorful language, but we don't go into slurs, we don't go into crazy shit like that. I'm pretty much fine with.
Same.
So here's my general thing. I treat this particular subject as the same way that Wolfenstein and Wolfenstein 2 do. Nazis are always good fodder for killing. It's just a fact of life.
I mean, you're not wrong.
If you can
Not
punch a
wrong.
Nazi, you should. So there will never, let me put it a better way. There'll never be a time in one of my games where those people are ever given a positive light. You may have the opportunity to kill one or to punch one in the balls, but there's never ever going to be a time when they are not shown to be villains.
Right.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, the Dead Kennedy song is "It Is What It Is" for a reason.
Yeah, that's true.
Mental and physical health. Cancer, claustrophobia, freezing to death, gaslighting, heat stroke, natural disasters, paralysis or physical restraint, police or police aggression, self-harm, severe weather, starvation, terrorism, torture, thirst. I'm waiting for that one person who's going to tell me and be like, who's going to be like, I was in an earthquake and buried alive once, so no earthquakes. I'm
Right.
going to be like,
I lost
so-
my whole family in a tornado. No,
yeah, it's
just
gonna,
can't
it's
do
gonna be
it.
one of those things where I was like, well, that throws my game out. You're off the table. If I can't bury you alive, we're done. Okay, so here is the other one. This is one that a lot of people we have discussed previously in games. I can tell you up front, any of these topics are likely to occur referentially or off screen, probably not on screen. So romance, so relationships, so Fade to Black, explicit between PCs and NPCs and between PCs. So my feeling on it is this. And same thing, and sex is that same thing. If there is a particularly appropriate time to do kind of a Fade to Black, people are having kind of a moment and it's like, okay, this would be the point where, these two people might go off and do something. Okay, we'll change scene.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm fine with. But I'm not here to be your audiovisual porn producer. I'm just not. And
No, I mean, if anybody has seen Vampire and they know they're like Michael can get a little saucy with his snacks, you've always done it very tastefully to where it's like, okay, well, as you two lay down, we're gonna cut over to Al's story now.
Yeah, and that's about where it is. But it's more about the level of comfort, i.e., do you feel comfortable with role playing a romantic situation with an NPC? Do you feel comfortable role playing with another player, given the fact that you both consent to it?
I'm
If
fine.
Okay, if everybody's fine with that, then that's fine. Just as long as everybody knows that if anything explicit is going to happen between you and a character,
Fade to Black.
it'll be a Fade to Black moment or something where we might pan away or do a joke or something like that.
Yeah, that's how we do it in my campaign.
So
Cool.
okay, so with all of that said, so now that we've cleared out, that is our consent checklist. That's lines and veils. It seems like everybody is about on the same level of comfort. So with that, let's talk about the giant spider. Now, so
That was almost a spit take all over my keyboard. Do not do that, son.
Don't play grounded. Just don't play grounded.
so
That's such a good game, though.
so here is the next thing that we're going to talk about, because this is all kind of the mechanical stuff as far as getting us to playing, which is the game schedule. So we were talking a little bit about this before everybody got on. It looks like what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to start at about 10 a.m. that day. So everybody's going to need to be punctual, and then
10
we're probably
a.m. standard or not standard, but central or eastern.
I will
Wait.
let Pix be the arbiter of that.
Okay.
Well, the difference for that is just 10 here is 11 there for you. So is that a good time?
I'm
10 Central, I would say, because it gives people on the East Coast an extra hour.
Yeah.
That's true.
what? Okay, fine. Then so we'll be starting 10 Central.
Time zones.
I know they suck.
And then the next question that we have is, so we were thinking about doing something akin to doing 2 hours on and then a 15-minute break, and then 3 hours and then a 45-minute break, so everybody could go get lunch or do drinks or whatever like that if they need to run out. Do another 2 hours and then do a 15-minute break. And then at that point, plow through for as long as we need to until we hit the end of the campaign, unless it's going to be like another 3 hours, in which case then we'll take another break.
Of course.
Does that seem like that is acceptable time framing for everybody? Because that will put us at the end of this. That will put us like right around middle evening, late evening.
Fine.
Okay,
That
so
works for me.
okay,
And
so
of course, anytime anybody is like, I gotta pee, you can always mute yourself, whatever, go take care of it. Come, we're not.
just make sure that when you do, you
Mute
write
yourself.
like you write like in chat and be like, bathroom,
Yeah.
BRB or AFK, so that way we're not sitting there being like,
No.
doing the fucking Pulp Fiction gif of being like. So okay, so with all of that, let's get into the the giant elephant in the room here, which is the game itself. I'm super excited to play this. It is very, very similar to Vampire the Masquerade, the 5th edition Chronicle, or the 5th edition. So we're going to start off a little bit talking about themes, pacing, plotting here. What is, and I'm gonna kind of open the table up here at this point. What is the kind of game that you guys are looking for? So thematically speaking, the games of Hunter are much different from any other World of Darkness games, because in most of the cases with World of Darkness, the story is really about being the monster and can you find redemption? Can you find your humanity? Whereas with Hunter, you are the human, and it's about how frail that is, how little time you actually have, and what are you going to do with it. And interestingly enough, also not becoming the monster accidentally.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some of the, when you think about things like this, and again, this is kind of open to everybody, what are TV shows or movies or that you kind of want to see in terms of like if you were thinking thematically or like what you want to feel when you're playing, where do you want to be? Is this one of those things where you want it to be a little bit more fast-paced and action-oriented? Is it a little bit more of kind of a slow burn? Is it a little bit more of a mystery setting? Is it, you guys tell me kind of where are you thinking?
Is this meant to be like a one-shot, like a one-off campaign? Like
Yes.
There's no continuation for them, or is it possible?
I mean, you never know where one-shots can
That-
go.
that-
But the plan is
that's
to
what I'm
cap it
asking.
off at the end of the night. That's the plan.
No, I'm just saying, like, you know, like that might affect my mindset a little bit. Like it being a one shot, you know, I might want it to be just a little bit more action oriented, just so we kind of get like, you know, that action feel and that like little time that we have. But if
I
it's
think-
going to be something that ends up prolonging or you know ending, you know, or going on further, then I would be.
So let me answer your question kind of with a I guess a
An open-ended question.
not even a question. It's more of kind of a
Hypothetical.
hypothetical. Consider this basically the pilot for a show.
Okay.
If at the end of it, everybody sits back and we cut the camera, cut the feed, and everybody goes, "Fuck, I don't want to stop playing. Like, I want to come back to this." then all that tells me is, okay, now we need to schedule a new night, and that'll be our hunter night, and now we're going to start doing that, and this becomes a new ongoing thing.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if we at the end of it, you know, everybody's kind of like, well, glad that happened, bye, click. You know, then that says that it's, you know, then it's probably better for a one shot. So that's kind of where I am with it. If you guys wanted to return to these characters and this setting and all of that at the end of it, I'm totally down. I will totally storytell. You know, Pix and Zach know me. I will give me a time and a place to show up, and I will fucking weave you a tale. As long as I've got players who will show up.
My only issue with that is, as much as I would love to, with my ever-changing work schedule, because retail
Mhm.
life,
Get that one.
I don't know how often I would be able to actually play, because my job likes to have me close the department I'm in a lot, and that's anywhere from 1 p.m. to a shift that starts at 1, ends at 9:45, to 3 to 8 to whatever.
Yeah.
So okay,
No, it's
so then
understanding.
so then let's, for the time being, let's, instead of focusing on the games that we might be playing, let's focus on the one we are going to play. So what is the theme or feeling that you guys are kind of trying to glean out of this? And if you want me to throw some kind of things out there, I can. What you got?
Well, I know you and I discussed. I kind of brought up the whole Buffy the Vampire Slayer feel on my
Okay.
end.
That's a pretty good build-up series.
Yeah. Well, the character I kind of have an idea for kind of has that vibe a little bit.
It's just the same that Christy Swanson turned out to be a MAGA idiot.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it's
Oh,
funny.
is that not the Buffy the Vampire Slayer we're talking about? I won't.
No, it's funny though,
No
like,
Luke
because
Wilson?
I don't know, my whole thing was like, okay, I want kind of this young-ish character, kind of out of high school, but not Buffy. And he was like, good.
Oh my God.
Someone else
Okay.
is doing that. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't want to
I'm
feel like the action hero type high schooler. I didn't mean it in the
Well-
sense of like, we can't acknowledge that world and that it was, you know.
Yeah.
But I was like, I don't want to be the Buffy.
Well, I don't think she's like the Buffy, like as in the Chosen, because she's not in high school or anything. She's in her 20s. I'm honestly just making her my age.
It's more relatable, easier play, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm almost thinking of making Guillermo from
From What We Do in the Shadows.
the Shadows.
You should do that.
Are you still going to be illiterate? Because you know you can be illiterate in this game, right, Zach?
Yeah, I didn't. I saw that. I was like, I don't know if I want to be illiterate in both games.
Todd, you were gonna say something?
I had the train and then it went poof.
Off the tracks.
Yeah, I was thinking a little bit. No, you're good. A little bit like a has-been hotel pilot.
Ooh. Ooh. I'm so excited for that. That would be so fun. But
Like-
also, Hmm.
Action packed with a little bit of a calming side, with those little glimpses of hope, and then they just
I was thinking like the mix between the action and mystery. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Those
action and
little
mystery.
suspenseful, like, kind of throughs, and then we get to act on it, and there might be a good big scene that comes out of it, and then we gather whatever intel we have from that or the repercussions, and then, okay, now it's kind of okay, we got to work it all out on our own, do the research, kind of, ooh, murder she
Like
wrote.
yeah, like I like a good mix of like role play and action sequences.
Okay.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if any of you guys have ever read the series, the Harmony Black series.
I've
Um,
heard of them. Hold
th-
on.
this is very, very similar kind of to what you guys are talking about. If you haven't read Harmony Black or all of Daniel, or excuse me, Craig Schaefer's books, Daniel Foss, Harmony
Oh, I
Black,
recognize them. I think I read the first one, but I haven't read all of them.
they are all absolutely fantastic. I literally just read through all of Daniel Foss the series. I'm rereading the Harmony Black series. They are absolutely fantastic for this kind of stuff.
Perfect.
So if that is the feel that you guys are going for, that kind of action oriented, but then at once shit kind of settles out. Now it's trying to put the pieces together and figure out what the next thing to go is. I got you. I know exactly where we're going with this.
Yeah.
Okay.
As long
I'm excited.
Okay. So then the next question that I have, and this is going to be kind of a little weirder, but it's a little more open ended. The setting. So the setting that we're going with is Seattle. So the
Mhm.
question is, what does that mean to you? For me, Seattle is kind of a really, it's perceived as being kind of the cutting edge, like where all the tech companies go. That's like other than Silicon Valley, there's a lot of tech companies that or that have their starts in Seattle. So there's this kind of this bleeding edge idea there. It's very, very green, so there's a very nature oriented bent to it. But the reality of Washington State is that outside of Seattle, it is backwoods. The people there are very backwoods.
Bumfuck nowhere.
It is bumfuck nowhere. It is very insular. If you head to the eastern side of the state, it's very, very conservative. It's one of those things where, despite the fact that Seattle has a very, very diverse, open population, and it is someplace that is very ahead of the time, cutting edge, kind of very progressive and progress minded. It's interesting to me because underneath of all of that, there's still all of these people who still are clinging to the past. There's still all of these people who, even though they are right next to one of the most forward thinking cities in the world, they're still attempting to cling to their little corner of the world and not let anybody in. They're still trying to keep their secrets. And so Seattle, when I think of Seattle, I think a lot of, despite the fact that it was overused as fuck for the movie, Nirvana's "Something in the Way."
Yeah.
Like that song,
Yes.
it kind of encompasses how I think of Seattle.
That's kind of my favorite Nirvana song. It's one of my
Mhm.
favorite Nirvana songs. I also
Same.
think, Pacific Northwest also, and the cryptids and all that.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I think
Vampires playing baseball.
what I think
do we
works well
sparkle
with
through?
this is because when you were giving us these kind of the two different ends, like big city or BFE, both bring different aspects that can be great for storytelling. And I was like, but where could we go to have both? And so this seems like we can have that edge of being in the city when we want, or having to go out into the boonies and deal with,
Mhm.
Make somebody
So
here.
Okay, so then, and this is kind of a round table, and we'll just take, we'll start with Zach, since he needs to go sooner rather than later.
yeah.
So what do you want, and what do you expect from the game? And we'll just kind of go through. What do you want, and what do you expect out of this?
I kind of expect kind of like the same. Like, I mean, we've been doing stories, different games together for a while. So I mean, what to expect is just the same that I've gotten from you from a while. It's just great storytelling, and
Oh, thanks.
some good good leads to go off of.
Thanks.
What I
Plus one to your
want,
stats.
what I want. No, I just want to see how cohesive everybody works, and see if maybe this can go beyond the one shot.
What do you want from the story itself, though? Like for your character?
From the
There you go.
story
There's
from my
that's
character. I had.
Beautifully said.
And see, that's one of the things I hadn't put too much thought about, because like, as Pixie knows me, I usually prefer to be like the last to decide what my character is going to be, so I can kind of fill in the gaps, if that makes any sense.
But the way that this seems to play out, it because of like your faults and your other things, there's no way to really pin you in, or each of us to kind of have one dynamic role that complements.
No. But like, there's definitely like roles that are based off of like technology, and some that are based off of religion, and some that are based, depending on what you choose. So I was just kind of trying to wait to see what everyone else wanted, and then trying to kind of fill in the gap as far as what I wanted for personal. I hadn't figured anything out personally yet. I was just trying to see how I could, fill in whatever gaps there were after everyone else had picked their.
Fair, very fair. Taylor, what about you?
For my character, based on kind of what we had been talking about, she kind of wants closure.
Okay.
What that could potentially mean, I'm not quite sure, but I don't know if that's really an attainable goal for her.
I mean, just because it's not an attainable goal at this session, or even maybe for the character, doesn't mean it's not something that should be pursued.
True. And I think with like how we talked about how she became a hunter, that's something about me is I tend to make very like I give my characters trauma and I give them angst because it's fun.
Oh, trust me, I will give you a lot more of that.
Fun, great. But I think she's very curious. So, and like she, like I said, she worked in a bookstore. She's and is very knowledgeable. So
Okay.
accessing more information, but also maybe using some of that information to maybe get closure would be good for her.
Okay. Cog, what about you? What do you want? What are you expecting out of it?
My expectation would be more of like growth and wisdom.
Yeah.
Okay. Go on.
No, you can't have
Um,
soda.
and to kind of have some interesting challenges, really interesting challenges along the way to gain this knowledge or wisdom.
Okay. All right. Picks.
When we discussed, like the up in the air as to whether this is not like true vengeance, but at least, and in some ways, I'm already relating to Taylor's character when it comes to like a sense of closure, even though for me, I know that there won't be one. Like, I'm just kind of out to. Like, we decided it wasn't quite revenge, but yeah, vengeance is kind of
Ooh, fun.
my deal.
So now that I have a little bit better idea of what you guys are trying to kind of get out of the game. I'm going to try and kind of reframe it back at you and say what I think the game wants from you.
Okay.
Hunter is a game, so Hunter being the characters, but it really is about, quote, the reckoning. Hunter is a game about people who are seeing this inequality. Maybe it's a power inequality on the most basic level of a werewolf or a vampire against a human. Obviously, that being an incredibly unfair set of advantages. Sometimes they're looking at it from an economic thing. The kindred who has amassed a giant amount of wealth and is manipulating everything and causing distortions in society through their manipulations. Sometimes it can be as even as kind of, shall we say, an imbalance in information in terms of there being people who know and people who don't, and that information being capped and kept from people. For the hunters, so the way that I kind of looked at it when I was trying to frame this game is kindred have the ability, and I use kindred because that's where I've spent most of my time, is on the vampire side of this. Kindred have the ability to spend lifetimes, sometimes millennia, manipulating people and planning their movements. They don't have to move. They don't have to do anything. They can afford to take the long game and look at things, because at the end of everything, they're still going to be alive. They're here forever. Humans don't have that. Humans can't wait 100 years to see a plan come to fruition. They can't wait a decade to see if things pan out. For humans, every minute, every hour, every day that they spend not doing something, not pushing towards this reckoning, people are suffering. People are dying. People are getting hurt. The game wants that urgency from you guys. The game wants you guys to treat it and say, we don't have time.
What can we do about this now?
Mhm.
We need to do this now. And that sometimes means taking risks. Sometimes that means attempting to negotiate and look at the information you've got versus the information you don't. And you take that gamble and say, this is what I know. This is what I don't. So this is how I'm going to prepare for what I don't know and hope to God that I'm not getting totally screwed here. The other part about that is that Kindred and many of the other characters from World of Darkness have the benefit of being long-lived, or if not long-lived, then very, very hardy. It takes a lot to kill a vampire. It takes a lot to kill a werewolf. Humans don't. Humans are frail. And so there is, even though the game gives you some mechanics that will make you maybe better than the average human, at the end of the day, it still expects you to treat your character as being on the edge. So, now that I've kind of explained what what I think the game wants from you, I know what you guys are looking for in the game. We're going to get kind of into the mechanics of it. Zach, I know you need to go. So get with me and find out when a good time is, and we'll go over all of this. Most of the mechanics you already know because we've played Vampire together.
And he's done some reading too, so he's had a chance to look at the book. I've been reading over
the PDF, so I've had a chance to get a good look at the book. So
okay, so for everybody else, who has everybody? So Pix, I know you played Vampire 5th. Cog, Taylor, have you guys played the 5th edition of Vampire?
I haven't played it. I've seen some streams of it. Like LA by Night.
Mm-hmm.
Things like that.
Fantastic.
It really
ATL's
was.
good too.
Oh yeah?
Mm-hmm. I follow a bunch of different ones. I'll send you links.
Okay.
I can't say anything better. I've studied a little bit into it, wherein I have time between everything going on. But
I have played a little bit of like Vampire the Masquerade, but it wasn't 5th edition, and it was like a decade ago.
Okay. Then it doesn't count.
Mm-mm.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. So
It's
here.
probably the same edition as all the books on my bookshelf. I have like a whole bookshelf of like 3rd edition White Wolf vampire werewolf books.
Antiques.
Yeah, I think it was 3rd edition that I played.
So
Yeah.
So okay, so we're gonna go over the mechanics really quickly of how the dice works.
The D10 system, I know that.
It is a D10. So the way that it works is that anything.
Wait, shit, do I need dice out?
No.
No.
Okay.
Your sheet will do it for you if you open your
Yes.
character sheet.
Oh, yeah.
It's excellent. Because I used to have the shittiest time doing the math, and I know Nox would get frustrated with me. I'm like, how many dice? What? Now it does it for us.
So the way that this works is that you use you use D10s.
Okay.
Anything that is below so a 5 or below is considered a failure.
Okay.
A 6 or above is considered a success. That's pretty easy.
Yeah.
If you get a 1, it's considered a critical failure. If you get a 10, it's considered a critical success.
Right.
So with that said, that's fundamentally how your dice work. Most dice rolls in the game are a stat, an attribute, and a skill.
Okay.
So if you need to roll to open a door that is locked, it's probably your dexterity and your larceny. If you need to roll if you're in a car and you're driving and you are attempting to, without looking at the road, just by feel, you are attempting to negotiate in the dark with your lights off, that's probably your wits and drive.
Mhm.
Right. Okay, these are terms I recognize, so that's something.
So yeah, so rolls are it's usually against a target number. You usually don't know the target number. If you don't, so I will always and I don't intend to fuck with people, but I do it anyways.
You sound like me.
Pixel know exactly what I say when I say this. If you make a roll before anything else happens, so usually if you've made the roll, I will tell you if you've made it. If you haven't made it, or if you're at the margin and I'm not telling you, I will always ask, do you want to spend a willpower to reroll up to 3 dice? What that means is on your character sheet, you will have a number of willpower.
Yeah, it's on it's under the character sheet core. You scroll underneath traits, you'll see willpower and health.
Yeah, willpower and
the cool thing is if you click where it says WP reroll in the middle, it just brings it up right there for you.
Oh, nice.
And again, if it's just like you want to just reroll 1 die, you can adjust that. So it's boom, simple.
Okay.
So what willpower, blowing a willpower power does is it means that you take a superficial point of willpower damage, and you reroll up to 3 die. Your willpower are refreshed completely from superficial damage with every long rest.
Right.
Which is to say, in this particular case, it's likely going to be when basically everybody, if you guys are like, okay, so this is as much as we've been able to accomplish today. We've been going at this for 48 hours. Now we need to sleep. That's the point usually when we'll take a break, and then willpower will refresh the next day.
Okay.
Things to get rolled for. Anything mechanical. If you need to shoot a gun, you're rolling for it. If you need to punch somebody in the face, you're rolling for it. If you are attempting to figure out, if you're attempting to hack a computer and seeing if you can get in, you're rolling for it. Drive down a hill in the dead of night with no lights on and only by feel, you're rolling for it. The only other time I will ever ask you to roll is if you were attempting to lie to an NPC. So if you've got a piece of evidence from the scene of a crime, and the local sheriff or local sergeant asks you directly to your face and says, "Do you know what happened here?" If you tell him, if you go, "Yes, officer, I know exactly what happened here," and you tell him, then I will consider that that's what you're just acting as your character would. But if you are like, "Nope, have no idea what you're talking about," what I will then have you roll for is if you basically are convincing in your lying abilities. I do not require rolls for social roles.
Okay.
I think that that's the only time I ever require rolls for social roles is if you're trying to like convince a crowd of something. If you're trying to like, if it's one of those things where you're attempting to have an influence over a whole bunch of people, and it's impossible to basically try to have that conversation if you're attempting to be like get on so great example. You're in an airport. There's a bomb there. You get on the intercom and you need to make a coded message to somebody that's going to hear exactly what you're hearing and understand what you're saying. That's probably a role.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are there attempting to schmooze with the local thin blood leader, if you're attempting to use actual evidence and empathy to convince a witch not to undo a curse, if you are attempting to convince a werewolf that they need to shift back and turn themselves into local authorities for whatever they've done, those roles are on you. There's no role there. That's on you and your role playing ability.
That's the fun part.
So the reason why I say that, and I try to make that clear up front, is because I know a lot of people when they're looking at their stats, they think to themselves, "Shit, I need to blow a bunch into my social roles and social stats to make sure that I can convince everybody to do what I want." And I'm just here to tell you, the only way you're convincing somebody to do what you want is if you can convince them, either by hook or by crook. Here are some of the mechanics that are different to Hunter from Vampire. There are your drive, danger, and desperation. Okay. We're going to kind of go in kind of a weird order here, since I said it in a weird order that I really didn't mean to, but it'll all kind of filter out as it does. So your drives, according to are in the book. That is how your hunter is supposed to hunt. That's not to say that you can't do something else. That's not to say that if you're an underground that you can't result to martial prowess, or that if you are an entrepreneur that you can't, result to the underground. But what that does say is that if you are attempting to actually be your hunter, you get your bonuses and you get the ability to use desperation die when you are going according to your drive.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that mean? It's not on screen yet. There will be a counter on screen that it's called desperation. It'll be a number 1 to 5.
Okay.
That is a pool of dice. It acts just like hunger dice for vampire. The difference is unlike hunger dice for vampire, for Vampire the Masquerade, when you have hunger dice, one of your dice, or however many of your hunger dice, come out of your dice pool. For this game, those desperation dice are added to your pool.
Okay.
So if the desperation level is at 2 and you were using your drive, you can get up to an additional 2 dice to your pool if you use them to attempt to basically make your numbers look better. I'm going to explain a little bit more about how desperation works. Desperation is exactly what it sounds like. It's kind of how tense or not tense things are. If you guys are walking down the street and attempting to look for a magic bookshop that a witch you think is going to be frequenting, and you know that she doesn't know you're coming for her, desperation's probably going to be at a 1. You know, it's probably a little dangerous, but your mission's probably not going to be compromised here. You know, it's not like it's, you know, you are on the running on the ragged edge. If a rampaging black spiral werewolf has the mayor's kid under his arm and he is charging for an open window to run, and you think there's at least a chance that he's going to fucking drop that kid mid-flight, your desperation level might be at a 5. This might be one of those moments where shit has officially hit the fan, things are fucked, it's time to pull out the big guns. What using those additional die does, 1, it gives you a bonus. So having more die in your pool means a higher chance of success. However, and this is the important part, if you fail, if you get a 1 on your desperation die, on any of those desperation die, you end up having a choice. You either overreach or you enter despair. If you overreach, it increases for every desperation die. It increases the level of danger by 1. If you despair, you lose access to your drive until you do something to redeem yourself.
Ooh, interesting.
So this is a big deal because if things are desperate and you have recently fucked up and you have not redeemed yourself, it's just you. You've got the pool of dice is not available for you. So suddenly now it becomes a much bigger deal. Hence why it is called despair, because the thought process there, well, I could have made that roll if I'd had access to those 4 die, becomes a bigger deal.
Yeah.
Danger is a number that is from 1 to 5. It is the modifier that says how aware the bad guys are of you. It's never less than 1, and it will not decrease during the story. What this means is that there are certain things that are directly affected by the danger number. A great example of that, there is the Thin Blood, the leader of the Thin Bloods, who is under normal circumstances with a danger of 1. Yeah, he's probably got his bodyguard and his chauffeur with him. He's got 1 guy extra there with him. At a danger level of 4, he's got his bodyguard, his chauffeur, and a contingent of 4 other vampires that are there with him.
Mm-hmm.
It makes your things much more difficult for you. The other thing is how aware they are, which means that if you are attempting to, say, sneak, it's a modifier that goes against your roll. So, for instance, if the danger level is 2, and you are attempting to sneak across where the bad guy is to go look at his study or something like that, a roll that might otherwise just be, a target number of 2 or 3 is now 4 or 5 because the danger is increased. Because if you get caught, you're probably well and truly screwed.
Yeah.
So, has everything that I've has what I explained, does that make sense? Do you guys have any questions mechanically? Do you want to?
One thing Nox knows about me is that sometimes I need an example scenario to hear how something works in practice. So feel free to ask, because I do it all the time.
Ask any questions.
It makes sense, but I think I'll actually grasp it more when we're starting to play. It does make sense, though.
Okay. Were you gonna say, Cog?
I was about to say it makes real clear sense. Mainly just a lot of it's just the mechanic of the dice, and then being careful, right?
Yeah.
So the biggest thing that if I could impose anything from this, the biggest thing is that the more that you play your hunter to their drive,
Mm-hmm.
the better your dice pool will always be.
Okay. That
That's
makes
not
sense.
to say that you can't. That's not to say that if you're playing a martial character, that sometimes subtlety is the better option. But it does mean that if you are attempting actively to play against your type, you are handicapping yourself. That's the best way I can possibly say it.
That makes complete sense.
Yeah.
Unlike when Vic ran his mouth and handicapped us, but God, that was an awful episode. God, I don't know if you guys caught that one, but
That was fun for me. That was one of those.
Yeah,
Really?
like,
Is this what we're doing now?
and I have to
What
go
was it
back
you
and
just said?
watch the video of me and Martha's faces, just like,
You didn't.
oh,
So, okay,
Vic.
with all of that said, the talking about stats, most of the stats are pretty obvious. So I'm gonna just go over them very, very, very briefly. So that way you kind of know exactly what you're getting yourselves into. Strength is exactly what it sounds like. Dexterity, anything that requires manual manipulation, from shooting a gun, driving a car, running, doing any sort of that's always going to be your dexterity. Stamina is how much physical punishment and or stamina you have, how much you can take, how long you can take it for.
Do you guys, yeah,
that's an excellent way to think about it.
Do you guys both have your character sheets open so you can kind of see where this is going?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Charisma is your ability to be affable and gregarious. Manipulation is your ability to be nefarious and lie. That's really what it comes down to. Composure is the social version of stamina.
Mhm.
It's if you're put in an awkward social situation, how long can you tolerate it before you finally are like, nope, I'm out. I'm done. Intelligence. So the way intelligence for mental intelligence versus wits is long term versus short term. So if you're trying to say, do I remember something? That's intelligence. If you're trying to say, I need to do this right now, do I have the information at hand? That's your wits. It's the difference between, are you having to improvise? So are you using learned information or are you improvising? That's a better way maybe to say it.
That's perfect.
Okay.
Resolve is the mental version of stamina and composure. It is how long you can take before you break. It is those numbers, composure and resolve, are never important until they're really important. They're those numbers that we never do a roll, but as soon as I'm doing a roll, it's usually because somebody's trying to fuck with your head in a way that's going to be uncomfortable and painful.
Oh, that's fun.
Willpower, it's like I said, that is your pool for what you do to burn if you need to reroll 3 die. You'll notice if you click on something, if you click once, it has a strike through it. That's considered superficial damage. That renews at the end of when you take a long rest. If you click it again, you'll notice it X's. That's considered aggravated damage. Aggravated damage for willpower takes a lot longer to heal and is considered only healable under special circumstances. So if you end up having to take aggravated willpower damage, that's going to take special things to recover, which means that even if you rest, you don't get that back. Health is exactly the same way. If you see your health tracker, you click it once, it goes to the 1 strike, you click it again, it goes to double strike. This is so an easy way to think about this is superficial versus aggravated. If somebody punches you in the face and gives you a black eye, you've suffered superficial damage. If somebody gouges your eye out, you've suffered aggravated damage.
Mhm.
Oh.
If somebody slashes you with a knife over your forearm, you've probably suffered. If it's not that bad, you've suffered superficial damage. If somebody has stabbed you from behind in the kidney, you've suffered aggravated damage. Being shot is almost always aggravated damage. Set on fire, aggravated damage. It's pretty obvious what's going to be aggravated, what's going to be superficial. The biggest difference is that when you take your rest to heal your willpower, you can heal up to your, I want to say it is your stamina and your composure's worth of superficial damage.
Okay.
Aggravated damage, again, takes time. You don't have that kind of time in our Chronicle. So it's, you, again, you're human. Please be careful. Do not break your toys. The next one is going to be your skills. Most of these are pretty self-explanatory. I'm not going to go through all of them with you. I'm going to hit on a couple that are kind of noteworthy. Athletics. Athletics is basically the skill version of dexterity. If you need to run, jump, climb, blah 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 blah, that's
Be
athletics.
yeeted onto a roof.
Um,
Oh no!
I will say I might need help like building my sheet.
and we are absolutely gonna do that in a second. We're just going
Okay.
over it beforehand.
Yeah, no worries.
Brawl is your ability to fight with your fists. Firearms is guns. Melee is with a weapon. Those are 3 separate skills. So if you were attempting to make somebody who can fight with a knife, you're going to want to go into melee. If you're attempting to make a gunfighter, obviously you're going to want to go firearms. But having skills in one does not necessarily cross over. Just because you know how to, pick up a knife does not necessarily mean that you're going to know how to use a gun, vice versa. Survival, since this is one that recently came up, survival is your ability to be able to make your way in an environment. That does not just mean wilderness. It also means if you end up on the streets with no phone, no credit cards, no anything, could you make it across the city? Could you figure out a way to find shelter if you didn't know your way home? That's survival. On the next one, animal kin is literally how good you are with animals. If you have
there's
a 0,
little more to it.
there's a little bit more to it, but the end result is people who have a 0 are probably going to have a much harder time with, say, a guard dog than somebody who's got a 4.
Yeah.
Going down. So here's one: insight versus awareness. Insight is, could you intuit a situation? Awareness is, are you aware of what the situation actually is? Another way to look at insight is also, could you figure out how something works? So somebody who is using, for instance, if you needed to figure out how a particularly complex lock worked, an insight roll might be able to, you might be able to say, okay, looking at the way the key fits and looking at the way that the it was put into the door, it's pretty likely that this is what it looks like and how the mechanical part of it works.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing because I typically my brain is attributing this to like D&D stats.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, oh, can I insight check the lock?
Yep.
As a rogue, my brain is just like, okay, I'm gonna fucking insight check the lock.
Oh, that's right. You told me you played rogue. That's right.
The picture that's on the stream that I actually changed it, but the blue tiefling is actually the tiefling I play on my Tuesday campaign. She's a rogue, and I'm just like, oh, okay, well, her insight is +6, so.
Oh.
So
Nice.
So underneath of all of that, you'll notice that there is a thing called specialties. Specialties are a section where, so let's just say, shits and giggles, that you have a skill in you've got a high amount of skill in subterfuge, and you're also really good at counterfeiting. So what that would mean is that on a roll for counterfeiting something, because you've got a specialty in that particular subsection of that skill, you get an additional die. So that can be so as a great example. So specialties are a really, really easy way to get extra die on something that you think you're going to need. So, for instance, if you take larceny, you only take 2 points in larceny, but you take the specialty for larceny of lockpicking. Any door you come across, larceny is basically a 3-point skill for you. You get through to roll an additional 3 die for it. So it's one of those things where it pays to think when you're looking at your skills. Think to yourself, how do I want to use this? What is my optimal way to use this? What is the skill I'm going to use the most? And then try to hone it so you can get the additional die. Not trying to min-max you here, but underneath of that are edges and advantages. We're going to go over that, but we're going to get started on doing character creation. So here's how I do character creation. I have already done most of character creation with picks because I wanted to make sure that I still knew how to do it for this game. So what I do is I say, first thing you need to know is how old you are.
Okay.
You need to decide what your age is. And then once you've decided your age, you need to decide where your dividing point was. What happened that brought you into this world? So for a way to think about it in terms of vampire. In Vampire the Masquerade, you were born whatever year, 1972, whatever. You were turned into a vampire in 1998. So from 72 to 98, you had a life. You went to school, you had girlfriends or boyfriends, maybe you got married, maybe you had kids, maybe you had jobs. And then there was one night that changed everything. But all of that stuff that was from before that point still comes with you. It's still the baggage you bring with you into this life. Those are the people who become your touchstones. Those are people who end up being contacts. Those are people who you end up wanting to protect or exclude from your life because it's dangerous. In Hunter, it's almost exactly the same. The difference is instead of becoming an undead monster, you have had some sort of encounter that has changed your life. You caught a vampire at a party drinking on one of your friends. You went out camping and heard something crunching around in the woods. You don't know what you saw, but that wolf was way bigger than it possibly could have been. You went to a stag party for your best mate. Y'all went to the club. You got some girls. You went back to the no-tell motel. You were taking one of them honeys with you. You don't remember that door at the end of the hallway. And that doesn't look like a door. And the next day you wake up and you don't know what happened, but you woke up in an awful lot of blood. And ever since that night, you've been trying to figure out what the fuck happened. Those are the kind of defining things that change people's lives, that make them hunters, that make them go from being, I'm going to live a perfectly normal life, I'm going to have 2.5 kids and 1.5 spouses, and I'm going to have a white picket fence and 1.3 dogs, to I'm going to give up everything in my life to answer this calling. Sometimes at the extraordinary expense of the people who are already in my life. because that's, as I've mentioned before, I think I talked kind of extensively about this with you, Pix. That wife who absolutely loved you and was totally on board with you forever when you married her, she's going to get pretty sick of your shit when you start showing up at 4 or 5 a.m. covered in cuts and glass. And when she says, "Where have you been?" And you have to lie. Because if you tell her the truth, there's no way she's going to believe you.
Mhm.
Those kids who always sat on your lap, you were the best dad ever, can't possibly, imagine you were great. Now they think you're a deadbeat. They don't call. They don't pick up the phone when you call. And it sucks that you've had to sacrifice that relationship with them. But if they knew what you were doing out there, they might think a little differently, but they'd also be at risk. And so you have to take that brunt. You have to make that sacrifice. So, Taylor, we kind of went a little bit over your character, a little bit. So let's kind of go a little bit. So we talked about it on chat.
In
So
Discord, yeah.
So how old is your character?
She's about 24, about the same
Okay.
age as me.
So about 24. And when did she have her
Encounter?
encounter?
I think about a year ago, so when she was 23.
Okay.
She's really new to this.
Okay, so she's she's going to basically be the kind of fish out of water story here.
Yeah. Like I
Okay.
said, I'm kind of like early Buffy, but not exactly Buffy.
Okay, so before this happened to her, what did she do? What was her job? Was she a college graduate?
Yeah, she was an English major.
Okay, so
worked in a bookstore. Relatively quiet life. She lived with before she moved in with her boyfriend, she lived with her grandmother.
Okay, so lived with her grandmother, then moved in
with said boyfriend of what we talked about.
How long were they together?
I think she met him. She just turned 22. They were together for about a year.
So in other words,
like 21 to 22. So maybe a year and a half, 2 years at most.
Okay, we're going to keep it a little short because the ability of someone for a vampire to keep themselves hidden from their significant other is going to be a little difficult. Too many nights where they come home and it's like, "Oh, what's on your mouth?" Nothing.
Yeah.
Ketchup, dear.
Why do you always smell like rust? Don't know what to tell you. Okay, so
year.
Okay, so then what happened?
Like how?
Yeah, so tell that story. What did your character, how did that encounter happen?
So Violet came home one night from the bookstore because she was closing late. And the lights were off in the house or in the apartment. Which, I mean, it was late, but I never thought. I tried to think of a name for him, but I've been so busy with other things.
We'll just call him Edward. We'll call him Edward.
No! No!
Copyright infringement.
Dimitri.
Copyright
There we go.
infringement.
Dimitri.
So Eddie. So what was Eddie doing?
Dimitri, because I like that. It was either Dimitri or Alexander. So.
Okay, so caught Dimitri feeding.
She heard something. She came home, the lights were off. It was strange because he typically stayed up most of the night. That was normal for them. And she came and she turned the lights on. She saw him feeding on someone. And like initially she thought, "Oh, he's cheating on me." But it's actually worse.
Okay, so
And
she comes home, opens the door, turns the lights on, finds him feeding. What does he do?
he, I think, flinches at the light and pulls back.
And
And
shows who he actually is.
yes. And I think the line is, "Oh, you're home early."
That's good.
Well, that's a hell of a thing.
I like that.
"Oh, you're home early." And she's just staring at him like, what?
So then what? So then what happens?
Let's see. I I think her brain just is like trying to, because humans tend to go into shock and ignore the obvious in front of them. She's just like, "What's going on? I'm not early. What are you doing? Who is this person? What is on your face?" And he just says, "I was hungry, but you look better." And lunges at her.
So okay, so Dimitri attempts to lunge at her. Did she kill him? Does she just drive him off? Does she?
I think what we talked about was that she killed him.
Well, what is your preference? Do you still want that dangling out there, or would you rather have the finality of now she's got blood on her hands?
Hmm. That's interesting. Because it'd be interesting. I said she wanted closure, and she does. And I don't think, like, killing him was kind of automatic closure. In like not completely, but in some way. So I think
So maybe she just drove him off.
injuring him and saying, "Get out of my apartment," and
So,
driving him off. Yeah.
okay, so she drives him off. So now she's had this experience. She knows vampires exist. She's had this experience. So what has she spent the last year doing? She spent the last year basically trying to study and trying to figure out
Researching.
and research. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I do think he actually did bite her, but she managed to like get him off and be like, get the fuck out of my apartment. What are you doing?"
okay. So then so this is an excellent part where we're now going to move to doing actual character creation.
Okay.
Because this is the where it starts to get numerical. Not to be kind of say something weird, but that's truth.
It makes
Okay.
sense.
So, so what is your I guess what would your concept be? Vampire survivor?
Yeah. Vampire survivor.
I'll put that in for you.
Okay.
Why does it keep changing my screen?
Sorry. So your ambition. So I'm gonna break out the book here because
Brag.
at this point we've got your concept. We need to choose your ambition and your desire. Your desire we will choose actually will be part of the game. What do you think that your character's ambition is? Kind of the big the big thing that Violet wants? Just closure? Do you think that her ambition is to just find closure on the situation?
I think so. She doesn't like, cause like she loved him, and she thought he loved her, and he did, but like he was hungry, and I think she surprised him
Look.
when she came home.
Look, I don't know if you've ever been that hungry, but I have been that hungry before. So, okay. So your creed is inquisitive, but you've already got your drive. Okay, cool. So we're already there.
I've done a little bit of research.
Okay, so now we're gonna do attributes. So the way that I always do this is I start at what you think. What would Violet be best at?
Um,
Do you think that she would be? Do you think that she considers that she would be super smart? Do you think that she would be more think on her feet? Do you think that she's well composed?
I think she's fairly well composed. I think she's intelligent, but
Okay.
she's also
Okay, so what do you think her best stat is? What do you think? What do you think that she is best at? Do you think she's smart, or thinks on her feet, or do you think she's very charismatic?
intelligence
Okay.
and charisma would be the highest, I think.
Okay, so then we're gonna put 4 points into your intelligence. So
Okay.
now we're gonna go to the opposite end of the spectrum. What do you think she's worst at?
Stamina.
Got it. Okay.
No hesitating to stamina.
Okay. So what do you think the next 3 things that she's best at? Because you get 3 and 3. So
Okay.
you think you said you thought that she would be very charismatic.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's 1. So pick 2 more.
And then composure.
Okay. 1 more.
And um hmm, dexterity.
Not bad. Okay, which means that everything else is at 2.
Okay.
So, your health is your stamina plus 3, so maybe a little sickly. Your willpower is your composure and your resolve. So you're a little above average there.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're going to do skills. For skills, I'm going to ask you a question. Do you think that Violet is a jack of all trades? Do you think she's balanced, or do you think that she's a specialist?
Uh
Do you think that she's somebody who kind of knows a little bit of everything?
I
Or do
think
you
she knows a little bit of everything.
Okay, so then you get 1 skill at 3, 8 skills at 2, and 10 skills at 1. So what do you think that she's best at? What do you think is the thing that she has spent the most time doing or learning how to do?
Hmm, insight.
Okay, so you think she's got good insight.
Yeah, good insight.
Okay, so now you've got 8 skills at 2. So what are just some things that you think that she would have just kind of maybe spent a little bit more time studying than otherwise, but maybe didn't spend quite as much time as kind of developing her insight?
Um, firearms.
So you think she, after her experience, she probably spent some time on the range?
Yeah,
Okay, 7 more skills.
stealth.
Okay, 6.
mm, Academics.
Excuse me, that's the wrong one. Academics. Okay, 5.
Um, investigation.
4.
Occult.
3.
Persuasion.
2.
Awareness.
Last one.
Medicine.
Okay. Now you get to pick 10 skills at 1. So what are things that you think that she took a class?
Technology. Science. Survival.
7 left.
Larceny.
6.
Leadership. Etiquette.
What was that?
Etiquette.
Etiquette. Got it.
Mhm.
4 more.
Animal kin.
3 more.
Streetwise. Craft. And
Last one.
finance.
Okay. So now
We'll
you
have an
get to take one.
accountant.
So now you get to take one specialty out of any of the skills that you've picked.
Academics.
Okay. What do you think that she specialized in with her academics? She an architecture buff? She do history of
English
art?
literature.
English. She was an English major, so English.
Okay.
English literature.
Okay, so English lit.
I don't know why that just felt right.
It does.
Okay. You also get another free specialty for academics. And you also get one for craft, and you get one for science as well. So
okay.
Why'd I only get 2?
you didn't take those skills.
I'm joking.
Craft
Um.
and science. Okay, so let's start with your academics. What else would she have specialized in academics?
I think after her experience with Dimitri, I think she would have studied more occult.
So occult studies is actually under occult. So
Oh, okay. Then
think something that you would actually learn in a school. Examples: African lit, architecture, history of art, history in a specific field or time period, journalism, philosophy, research, teaching, theology.
history of art.
Okay.
Um.
Now for craft. What do you think she's good at making? I think she sews her own clothes. Does she paint?
Paint.
She a painter?
Yes, she's a painter.
Science. Was there something out there that she was really interested in, scientifically speaking? Was there something that just kind of she latched onto and she was like, I get this?
Plants.
Oh, so what is that?
You gonna grow our weed?
Science of plants. What is that is botany.
Botany, yes. The fun fact, earlier when I was walking home from the store, I found bull nettle and I was just like, oh, nightshade.
Uh-oh.
Nice. Okay. So Where is now? I'm sitting here looking at it. I will fill that in later. Okay, so at this point, you've chosen your skills. Now you have to pick your advantages. I'm going to. You've got the PDF available to you.
Let me pull it up. It will load here in a second, but yes.
Okay, so here is skills and advantages. Start on 70. You have to pick 7 points in skills, 7 advantages, and you have to choose 2 points in 2 flaws.
Okay. 7 advantages, 2 flaws.
We're going to come back to that. Don't pick them until I'm with them, but write them down.
Okay.
Here is the one, and this is important for you too, Cog. Pix has already chosen as one of her advantages to have a safe house. Safe houses are one of the few advantages where they can be shared. Now, if you choose, you can say, I want my own safe house, then your numbers don't apply to Pix's. But Pix already has...
Let me see which page it's on so we can all check it out.
Has 1 point in safe house.
It's on page 78, if you guys want to check it out. But I only put the first point, so...
So right now, the safe house that you guys have available to you is a small safe house, more secure and private than the default. It's a basement. It could be a basement apartment, a record shop back room, a locked storeroom, and a warehouse. You guys can each contribute to that in your own way. You guys can either increase the size of the safe house and move it up. These points are unlike everything else, they're cumulative. So one of you putting 1 more point in there takes you from a small safe house to a good sized safe house. And you can also spend your safe houses, your points, to give things like a hidden armory, a panic room, a laboratory, things like that. But with this also comes the ability to impose your flaws. You can take as one of your 2 points in flaws, or as both, and make the safe house compromised, creepy, or haunted. So, while you're looking through those, just something to think about. While you're looking at those, Cog!
Yes.
So, let's start. So who is your hunter? What is their name?
Vash Kunai.
Vash, V-A-S-H?
Yes.
Nice.
And Kunai.
Okay. How old is Vash?
35.
35? How old were they when they had their encounter?
32 is when it first started to happen.
Okay. So, just like with what I just did with Taylor, what was Vash doing up to this point?
Up to this point, he lived with his mother for a while, taking care of her. And then she had passed away.
So, okay, so he caretaker for his mother. How long did that go on in his life?
That went on for about 7 years prior to that.
Okay, so when did she die?
She died right at the age of 30, right at his age of 32.
Okay. So he started having to take care of her at 25.
Yes.
Before that, what did he do?
He was a computer technician, engineer, working for a big tech company.
Okay. What was he working on?
He was working on helping develop quantum physics.
Nice. Quantum computing. Okay. So, should we take it that he was like a college graduate?
Kind of the jack of all trades and pursued many different careers.
Okay, so how long
Or-
did he work as a computer engineer then?
How long did he work as a computer engineer? He worked on it for 4 years.
Okay, so then he would have been at 21. So what was he doing before then?
Studying in extracurricular what are they? Like vocational schools.
Okay, so he didn't go to college. He was actually a like a tradesman.
Yes.
Okay. So he's a tradesman. Puts his head down. He ends up working, becoming a computer engineer for a tech company, working on quantum computing. Then something happens to his mom. She gets sick. Does he basically have to quit everything? Does he kind of have to walk away from everything, or is he trying to?
He was trying to, work his full-time job, be in the support, and help build this amazing machine. And then she became really sickly and couldn't really care for herself anymore. She kind of become bedridden.
Okay, so he ended up having to walk away from his work. So she dies. So what happened? So what happens at 32? What is his
32.
encounter?
He goes over and visits his father over kind of in the country area. His father's working out in the barn. He breaks him the news, and it goes good for a good 3-4 months. But then down the road, when he was out in the fields and the pastures, kind of in the wooded area, he noticed some like people standing in the woods. And he thought nothing of it, and, kind of shot towards them, made him go away. And later that night, they came outside to some really strange signs and stuff like that around the property. And the next thing you know, they're surrounded by these people that weren't looking normal. They were just kind of pale.
Okay, so what happened?
Um they get into their little confrontation, and one of them starts to lunge towards his father, and the father gets attacked, and it kind of becomes a little bit of a bloody mess. His father gets scraped and cut and almost die, and he has to run away.
So does his father die? Was his father actually torn apart by these people?
He all he heard was screaming. He didn't look back.
So he doesn't know.
Not fully, no.
Okay. So he doesn't actually know what he encountered or who those people were.
No.
Awesome. Okay, so you said this happens out in the country. Does this happen? Where does define in the country for me? Is this like something that happens out in like eastern Washington, or is it like in Wyoming, or like in the Midwest, or?
It's more in more down south.
Okay, like Oklahoma or
More in Texas.
okay. Okay. So he goes to visit. So just kind of repeating the story back to you as we have it. So his mom dies after he's taking care of her. He goes to see his dad and tell him the news and stays there with his dad for a while. Goes out into the local in the local woods, local country. Sees people that are out there. Takes a shot at them, just trying to get them off the property. Starts to see strange signs all around the property. Finds one night, wakes up, they're surrounded by these people. Get into a confrontation. Father gets torn apart, and he takes off running. Okay. Where does he go?
He heads back to the house and tries to get one of the shotguns, one of the weapons from the house, to go back to the situation and kill the strangers that are attacking his father.
Okay, so what happens next?
He gets back to the site and his father's missing one leg and he's kind of just barely hanging on for dear life. Blood's everywhere, and the people are kind of hanging around and their faces are drenched in blood, like they've been drinking it.
Okay. So what does he do?
He takes the first aim out of a blind rage of what's happening, and he takes shot, but he misses, and things just kind of glance out after that. He loses sight of all three of the people, and it's just gone. Everything kind of goes to black.
Okay, so what has happened to his dad? Is his dad dead?
From what he could tell, from what he saw and remembered, yes.
Dad's dead. So what happened? So where does he go next? After his dad's dead. What does he do?
He's just kind of in shock, and I think he passes out.
Okay, so think more after that. So what is the next? So let's say next day. And scene next day. Where does he go? What does he do?
Gotcha. He goes into the local town to see if there's been any other kind of strange occurrences. He goes to the local police station to see if anybody's reported strange people with blood on them or acting suspicious. And he doesn't really get anywhere. He doesn't really get any answers from anybody. They all kind of treat him crazy as he goes throughout the town, asking people.
Okay. So then where does he? So what happens next? I guessing he leaves.
Goes back to his father's house and kind of holds up there and uses the computer to do a little digging and see if there's been reportings around the continent.
Okay. So here's the question. So how does he get from being in Texas to Seattle? What takes him? Is he just following the lead, or is he?
He ends up following a few kind of subcategory chats about strange appearances throughout the states, and over a year or so, he couch surfs all the way up through Oklahoma to Kentucky to Arizona and up until he reaches just outside of Seattle's border.
Okay. Okay, perfect. That is amazing. Okay, so we know the kind of the broad strokes here about your character. So now let's actually build him. So, so the first question is, what is Vash's creed?
So this is Creed.
Do you think he is an entrepreneurial hunter? Do you think he's a faithful hunter? Do you think he's an inquisitive hunter, a martial hunter, an underground hunter?
It's on page 57.
Inquisitive. Probably more inquisitive because he likes to inquire multiple different things or traits.
Okay. Now, what do you think drives him? Do you think that he's driven by curiosity because he wants to know about these monsters? Or do you think he's driven by vengeance because he's got a score to settle? Do you think that he's driven by an oath that he's made a promise either to himself or to somebody else and he needs to fulfill it? Do you think that he's driven by greed? He wants what they have? Do you think that he's driven by pride? Do you think that he's driven by envy? Or do you think he's driven by atonement?
Or pride because of what he already had been through in such a short amount of time.
Do you think that he's like, you know, this is my property, this was my world, and now you people have fucked it up and I'm taking it back?
Mm-hmm.
That's
He's
kind of
protecting what's his.
That's
Nice.
kind of badass.
Nice.
Oh, nice. This is
Vendetta.
Okay, so concept. Shall we say, kind of prodigal son?
Not so much a prodigal son as just a very driven person.
I will let you phrase that. So, what is Vash's ambition? What is he? What do you think he wants at the end of all of this? What is his grand goal here?
Probably more so to just, I guess, get some more, kind of bring closure to all the pain and suffering that had already happened.
oh, interesting.
So maybe to find the people who did this to his father.
Yeah, to kind of take a vengeance.
Yeah, actually, this is probably a good time. Let's take a really quick bio break. We'll come back to this here in about 10 minutes.
Okay.
Mhm.
And
Cool.
yeah, we'll be right back.
All
right.
right, everybody in Twitch chat, thanks for sticking with us. I appreciate it. And I hope you're enjoying hearing maybe something new you've never experienced before. We will be right back. Alright, everybody, thanks for sticking with us through the bathroom break. We're back planning our one shot for August 20th to celebrate Extra Life's Tabletop Appreciation Day. So, thanks for joining us, and we'll get back to it.
So, going through attributes. So, what do you think that Vosh is good at? What do you think is the thing that stands out about him most?
I think probably his. Well, definitely not composure after that last little situation. But probably his stamina.
Okay, do you think that his stamina? Okay,
Yeah,
bit of a hoss.
little bit.
All right. So you said you thought that his composure is probably where his would be his worst.
Probably.
That's opposite of Violet. It's funny.
Okay, so if his stamina is his best stat and his composure is his worst, what do you think that he's pretty good at? Now remember that he's supposed to be a computer tech and kind of an all-around guy for working odd jobs. So he's probably not stupid.
Probably his wits would be
Okay.
the most.
So 3 there, so 2 more. So what else is he? What else would you say he's good at?
Wits, maybe?
That's what he already chose, was wits.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe
His resolve.
intelligent? Oh, resolve.
Okay.
Resolve and intelligence.
Okay, so then everything else is at a 2.
Okay.
Okay. So with that, your health is stamina plus 3. So you are. So stamina is 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Whoa.
Definitely a bit of a hoss. Willpower. Your willpower is your composure and your resolve. So not doing too terrible there. So okay, so skills. So do you think that he is a jack of all trades? Do you think he's kind of a balanced, like he's got kind of a decent skill set, or do you think he's a total specialist?
I think he's pretty well rounded on skills.
So you think he's balanced. Okay. So we're gonna take 3 skills at 3. So what do you think that what do you think are his kind of the skills that he leans on the most?
Probably athletics and it's kind of split between drive and survival.
I mean, you've got 3 points, so you can do 3. You could do those 3 if you wanted to.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that.
Okay. So then you've got 5 skills at 2. So what do you think he's pretty good at?
Academics and awareness.
Okay. 3 more.
Streetwise performance.
one more.
Adequate.
Interesting. Okay, now you've got 7 skills at 1. So what do you think? What are things you think that he's dabbled in?
Science.
I'm sorry. What was?
Medicine.
I'm sorry. What was the first one?
Science.
Science, medicine. Okay, so 5 more.
Finance.
4 more.
Persuasion.
3 more.
Melee. Firearms. And craft.
Okay.
Wait a minute. It's how many points then? Because
7. So he gets 3 at 3, 5 at 2, and 7 at 1.
oh, okay, because it's different based on our. Okay. I
Yeah.
was like, I don't have 7 with 1. I'll take.
Yeah, but you have 1 skill at 4.
Yes, I do.
Okay, so you get a 1 free specialty. So what is a skill that you think that he's exceptional at, and what do you think that specialty would be in? Now keep in mind, it doesn't have to be one of your top end skills. It can be one of your 1-point skills.
Like
Really
for me, I have 3 points in subterfuge, and
Mhm.
so I took the skill of counterfeiting. I have 3 points in craft, so I also took digital art because I'm good at counterfeiting things, making copies of things. Like we need IDs, passports, whatever. If I can design it on a computer, I can counterfeit it.
Very nice.
Let me put him on science.
Okay, so science. What is the skill there that you are specializing in for science?
It would be the ability to combine chemicals and
So
make.
chemistry.
Yes, chemistry.
Ooh,
Uh,
bombs.
Hmm. What is that mysterious ticking noise? It's a pipe bomb!
No, 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 no.
I'm sorry.
Bombs would be too easy.
Thermite.
okay, so now
That is
you
true.
get you get a free specialty for for academics. You get you've got 1 for academics. You get 1 for craft. You've got craft. You've got 1 for performance, and 1 for science. So you still have free specialties for your academics, craft, performance, and science again. So what is your academic skill? What did you specialize in?
My academic skill. I would probably. Which page is that one on?
67. Examples of it are
Thank you.
things like African lit, architecture, history of art, history in a specific field or period, journalism, philosophy, research, teaching, theology, film
More
studies.
research.
Okay. Okay. Your science skill.
Science skill. That one came to be the.
So you've already got 1 in um in chemistry. So what else are you good at?
Really, the ability to take things apart.
Engineering?
So I was gonna say, so like engineering.
Yes.
Okay.
Nice.
Let's be more specific, like computer engineering or mechanical engineering, because those are going to be very, very different.
Mm.
Mechanical engineering.
Okay. Craft. What are you good at making?
Gases. Different kinds of gases.
The craft is usually defined as artistry. So,
Like I have digital art or painting or
Yeah, mine's painting.
yeah. So things, the examples given are like carpentry, carving, design, painting, sculpting, sewing, weaponsmithing.
Or design.
Okay. Performance. What are you good at performing?
Multitasks. Multiple tasks.
Performance is usually things like comedy, dance, drama, drums, guitar, keyboards, poetry, public speaking, rap, singing, violin, wind instruments. So, for instance, if you were just to give kind of example, if you ended up like at a concert where you guys were hunting for something that was drawn to a certain resonance of a certain sound, the ability to be able to play an instrument, play like a type of instrument might help you with that. Alternatively, if you were attempting to negotiate with a local gang and they happen to start snapping at you like in a battle rap style, the ability to rap might actually come in handy. Neither of these things has ever happened in any game that I've played. So
Yeah, I was about to say that doesn't. I would probably say. Probably the ability to play certain instruments.
okay, so what do you play?
Piano, guitar,
Okay,
more
so
piano.
we'll say piano. And okay, so those are your skills. So I believe at this point we are now to doing advantages. So I'm going to give you the opportunity to go and look at advantages. Advantages start on page
70.
70.
70. Yeah, they start on 70. You have to pick seven advantages and 2 flaws. Don't actually pick them. Just write them down, and then we'll go over them. Taylor, have you figured out what you're doing for your advantages and flaws?
Not all of them. I have I have 3
couple.
advantages and 1 flaw. I'm looking.
Okay, so what do you got for what are your advantages that you're going with so far?
A contact.
Okay, so contacts actually are handled in kind of an interesting fashion in that your contacts do. Hold on, let me try to.
74.
So you pick. Okay, no, that's I'm thinking allies. Excuse me. So contacts. So you're picking how many points are you investing in your contact?
2.
You're going to pick 2 points in contact. All right. Tell me a little bit more about your about this contact. What are you trying to get them? Who are they?
They're a pawn shop owner.
Oh, that is
Smart.
that is
I'm loving it.
pawn shop owner. All right. Hell yeah.
I am good
That-
at character building.
That's beast. That
Thank
is a
you.
beast contact to have. Okay, so you've got what's your so what is your what's the next advantage you've got?
Beautiful.
And 2 point so 2 points in that for beautiful.
And I was also thinking maybe unseemly aura to kind of go with that. I mean, she managed to pull a vampire, so
So did Kristen Stewart. I'm just saying.
no.
No, you have to pardon, but it's just a common rib that we have in our group already, so it's nothing
Okay.
personal whatsoever. It's absolutely
Okay.
not.
Okay, so
yeah.
where is it under? Oh, unseemly era. Okay.
Yeah.
I can type today.
Nah. Why would you need
Okay.
that?
So now you still have 1 point left in perks, and you need 2 flaws.
Addiction is her flaw.
Okay, so you're going to take a point in. You're going to take severe addiction as your flaw.
It's not. I don't think.
Or just one, or just a 1 point in addiction.
Just one in addiction.
Okay.
And let's see, what was the other one I had?
What is she? What is she? What is she addicted to?
Cigarettes. That started as a stress thing after the situation.
It makes perfect sense. Okay, so you now have 1 more point for advantages, and then one more flaw. Did you want to contribute to the house?
The safe house, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so what are you giving to the house?
What page is that on?
It's on 78. So if you can contribute 1 more point to just the house, that'll increase it from a small safe house to a good size. Alternatively, you can increase it in a way in terms of its merits, adding an armory, a panic room, a laboratory, watchman, luxury.
Security system.
Okay, so you're going to add 1 point there. Okay, you've got 1 point in flaws left. You
Yes,
can also, as I say, you can also apply the flaw to the house if you want to. You can make it creepy or haunted.
I'm
not telling you to do that. I'm just saying.
I know. I'm trying to see what other flaws I could take.
It's secretly his way of being, do it. Like the librarian from Bob's Burgers.
Oh, I have an idea. Stalkers for her flaw.
All right, now this is stalker. Okay, who's your stalker?
That's a good question. I don't think she knows.
Ooh, up to storyteller. Ooh. Playing Russian roulette with that one.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows?
And I said,
maybe you'll find somebody with some dead eyes following you around.
and as you said, I had one more in advantages, and that was the safe house.
That was the safe. Yep, that was the safe house.
Okay.
Okay. Cog. Have you found some advantages and flaws that you want to use?
Yes.
Okay.
I've got some of the kids screaming.
It's okay.
No worries.
Give me just a moment.
Totally get it. Totally understand. Oh, I totally put. I'm an asshole. Okay. Let me just copy all of this over since I accidentally put it onto Cog's sheet.
Oh, oopsie.
Oh, well.
That's fine. Contact 2 points.
Taylor, did you read the description for Living on the Edge?
I did.
Yeah, that's the one I took.
Yeah, I saw that.
I was like, we'll try this.
I thought about it, but I was just like,
And then I took a contact as well, but I took a level 3.
Okay, what is yours?
I have a security system expert friend.
Then me adding a security system to the safe house works perfectly.
Yeah.
And the fact that she's friends with a pawn shop owner is useful for everybody.
Oh yeah, no, that was genius.
Thank you.
I'm so excited for this. This is going to be such a badass little story.
The kind of inspiration from real life. Growing up, my dad was friends with a pawn shop owner right down the road from us. And I was just like, that was always useful.
Yeah. Thanks for
I do like
follow. We got a follow from Chifey. Welcome to the playground. We're doing
Welcome.
a session 0 / planning session / character creation for a one shot that we will be doing in a couple of weeks. Well, less than. How are you? Feel free to be active in chat. We do answer. We had one night, Taylor. We had just gotten to our break on Monday Night Vampire.
Mm-hmm.
And the kiddo comes in and is like freaking out about his knee. And I was like, well, what's wrong? And the night before, he'd gotten a splinter in his knee and we thought we got it out, but we didn't get all of it out. And it was getting inflamed. And like, we're on the break and we're like trying to pick at it and it's like getting worse. And like, we had to like, I had to run in and be like, we're going to like urgent care. Bye.
Oh.
So yeah, we all understand like shit comes up, things need to be dealt with. So it's totally understood around here. Never be afraid to ask for like a break or anything.
Okay, good to know.
I was also going to say, you mentioned that your schedule is all weird because you work retail.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if this takes off and you guys really enjoy these characters in this setting, this doesn't have to be a weekly thing. This could be an every other week thing. It can be a once a month thing. It can be so if it's something you guys are truly interested in, I mean, there are ways to make it work.
Yeah, my brain automatically went to weekly.
Yeah.
Because that's what I do for my Tuesday game. Because I was in my I started my Tuesday game during the pandemic when I was still during quarantine part of pandemic rather. When I was still unemployed. And so when I got my current job, I kind of made sure to have the Tuesdays, like, I have to be off by 7 o'clock on Tuesday.
That's the one thing Zach has done as well with at least Monday nights. So there are times he misses Mothership on Thursday, but he kind of told them, he's like, y'all know I'm not religious, but Monday is church. That's what he told them. So unless like it's an absolute, Zach is the only guy that has access or can do the job, he's like, don't call me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it's funny because I'm looking for work right now. And everybody's like, so what days can you work? And I'm like, I can work any day that's not Monday.
Yeah. Yeah, I built my schedule around my D&D game, and I'm just like, this is so nerdy, but it is my thing.
Yeah, of course.
We're going on 3 years in September for this game. This is our third DM because life has happened,
Yeah.
and I'm just so glad that it's back off the ground.
That's great.
And they kind of invited me back to Akashi next year to potentially run a one-shot. So
That's
I'm kind of writing that.
great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm thinking steampunk adventure.
Oh, yeah,
That'll be
that'll
really
be
awesome.
yeah.
Clockwork Dragon.
Hey.
Ooh.
Is there any way I could pop back on a little bit later or message you some stuff, Knox?
Yeah, just put it in the chat or send me a private message with with your stuff if you need to get going.
Yeah, I
Yeah, we can do
do.
that.
The kiddos are going rampant crazy.
It's okay.
But I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, just the only things that I'll need to do need you to do you'll need 7 points, again 7 points in advantages, 2 points of flaws, and then for your edges when you're picking them you'll need to pick. I'm going back really quickly. It's 2 points, so you get two. I want to say it's 2 edges and 1 perk, or 1 edge and 2 perks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just message me with what those are, and I'll make sure that everything checks out. And then at that point, I think we're actually about done with character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Perfect. Absolutely.
I'm so glad we could all get together. I know it was hard to make time, so you guys are fantastic. But yeah, feel free to take off, and I'll cut my outro. But yeah, I want to thank my good friend Taylor. You guys in chat would know her as Better to Burn Out. We've got Cog Runner. A lot of you guys are familiar with him. Knox, as always, fantastic to hang out with you. And
Are
yeah,
we done?
we're gonna take off. Thanks everybody for being with us, and stick around for a raid. Bye.